The transport shuttle's doors opened with a hiss that made several alien cadets turn their heads. Ryan Foster stepped onto the landing platform of Station Horizon, carrying 2 duffel bags and leading a German shepherd on a leash. Duke trotted beside him, ears alert and tail relaxed, taking in the strange new smells of recycled air mixed with ozone and unfamiliar scents from dozens of alien species. Around them, the platform buzzed with activity. Cadets from across the galaxy moved in organized groups, their body types ranging from insectoid creatures with multiple limbs to towering reptilian beings covered in scales. None of them had animals walking beside them, that a human cadet jogged over, grinning widely. Briggs had been at the academy for 3 months already and looked comfortable in his gray training uniform. Ryan, you actually brought him. Everyone's been talking about Earth's companion posting program, but I didn't think anyone would really show up with a dog. Duke sat on command, his dark eyes scanning the crowd with professional calm. He'd worked in disaster zones before around loud noises and chaos, but this was different. The alien staring at him made sounds his instincts didn't recognize. Earth insisted, Ryan said, adjusting his grip on the bags. They said if other species can bring cultural items and traditional tools, we can bring our partners. Duke's certified for search and rescue. He saved 14 lives back home. Briggs knelt down carefully, letting Duke sniff his hand. He's beautiful, but man, you should hear what they're saying in the barracks. Most species here either never domesticated animals or they just use them for food. The concept of keeping one as a companion is completely foreign to them. A sharp clicking sound made them both look up. An insectoid cadet approached, his multiple eyes focusing on Duke with scientific curiosity. His translator device rendered his speech in flat, mechanical tones. Fascinating. This creature is non-sentient, correct? What function does it serve in combat operations? He's not for combat, Ryan explained, standing up straighter. He's trained to find people, to work with rescue teams, to help in emergencies. The insectoid cadet, whose name badge read Toral, tilted his head in a way that suggested confusion. We have drones for such tasks. They are more efficient and do not require food or rest. Why bring a biological entity that needs constant care? Before Ryan could answer, a feline-featured cadet sauntered over. Her fur was striped in shades of gold and black, and her movements held the confident grace of a natural predator. Let me see this Earth pet everyone's gossiping about. She looked down at Duke with obvious amusement. My people hunted creatures 3 times this size for sport. Is this really what humans consider impressive? Duke's ears perked forward, but he remained sitting, his training overriding any instinct to react to her tone. Ryan felt a flash of irritation, but kept his voice level. His name is Duke, and he's not here to impress anyone. He's here because he's my partner. The feline cadet, Neshra according to her badge, laughed softly. Partner? How quaint. I suppose when your species lacks natural weapons, you need something to make you feel safer. She walked away, her tail swishing behind her. Toral lingered a moment longer. I mean, no disrespect, Ryan Foster. I simply wish to understand. On my world, we form partnerships with other sentient beings. The concept of bonding with a creature that cannot communicate complex thoughts is puzzling to us. He communicates just fine, Ryan said quietly, scratching behind Duke's ears. Just not with words. The orientation assembly took place in a massive hall where gravity plating accommodated species with different physical needs. Commander Halvax, a towering reptilian officer with deep green scales and eyes that seemed to miss nothing, stood at the front. His presence commanded immediate silence. Cadets of the United Coalition Defense Force Academy, you represent the finest your worlds have to offer. Here, you'll train together, fight together, and learn that survival in space requires cooperation across all species. His gaze swept across the assembled crowd and paused briefly on Ryan and Duke. Some of you bring traditions from your home worlds. Others bring tools or symbols of your culture. These will be tolerated as long as they do not interfere with training or discipline. After the assembly, Ryan and Briggs headed to their assigned quarters. Duke walked between them, his nails clicking softly on the metal floor. Other cadets moved past, and Ryan heard whispers in various languages. His translator caught fragments: emotional support animal, primitive bonding, liability in combat. Their quarters were small but functional, with 2 bunks, storage lockers, and a shared workspace. Duke immediately explored the room, sniffing corners and checking under furniture before returning to Ryan's side. "They'll get used to him," Briggs said, unpacking supplies. "Give it time. Maybe." Ryan set up Duke's water bowl and food container in the corner. "But I heard what that feline cadet said. A lot of them think he's a weakness, something that proves humans are too soft for military service. Are you worried?" Ryan watched Duke settle onto a mat near his bunk, the dog's body relaxed but his eyes alert. "No, Duke's proven himself 100 times over. They just need to see what he can do." The next morning, Ryan woke before the alarm to take Duke for a run around the station's exercise track. The corridor lights were still dim in their night cycle setting. As they jogged past other early risers, Ryan noticed the stairs hadn't diminished. If anything, Duke's presence seemed to fascinate and confuse the aliens in equal measure. A massive figure stepped into their path. The cadet was easily 7 feet tall, covered in thick brown fur, with a build that suggested overwhelming strength. His species, the Urson, were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors. "You're the human with the pet." His voice was a deep rumble. "I'm Gronak." Duke stopped when Ryan did, sitting immediately at his left side. The dog's posture was relaxed, professional, showing no fear despite Gronak's intimidating size. Gronak leaned down, bringing his face close to Duke's. His breath came in heavy snorts, clearly trying to provoke a reaction. Duke simply sat there, ears forward, watching Gronak with calm attention. "It does not even defend itself," Gronak said with contempt. "On my world, we would eat such a creature for breakfast." "He doesn't need to defend himself," Ryan said carefully. "He's not afraid of you. He's trained to stay calm in stressful situations." Gronak straightened up, crossing his massive arms. "Trained, like a machine. Where is the warrior spirit? Where is the instinct to fight?" He shook his head. "Humans bring pets to a military academy. This is why your species will always be weak." He walked away, leaving Ryan standing in the corridor with Duke. The dog looked up at his handler, tail wagging slightly, completely unbothered by the encounter. "Good boy," Ryan murmured, scratching Duke's head. "Let's finish our run." But as they continued around the track, Ryan couldn't shake the feeling that Gronak's words reflected what most of the Academy thought. To them, Duke wasn't a testament to the bond between species. He was proof that humans needed emotional crutches to survive in a harsh galaxy. They would learn differently. Ryan just hoped the lesson wouldn't come at too high a price. 2 weeks into training, the mockery had become routine. Ryan learned to ignore the whispers that followed him through corridors and the laughter that erupted when Duke trotted past groups of alien cadets. What bothered him more was how systematic it had become. During obstacle course training, Ryan finished in the top 15% of his class. His body was lean and strong from years of mountain rescue work, and he navigated the climbing walls and balance beams with practiced ease. Duke waited at the finish line, tail wagging as Ryan crossed. Neshra finished 30 seconds behind him, her feline agility making the course look effortless. She barely seemed winded as she walked past. "Decent time, human. Though I wonder how fast you'd move if you had to carry your pet through a real combat zone. Dead weight tends to slow soldiers down. He's kept up with me through avalanches and forest fires," Ryan said, checking his time on the display board. "I think he'll manage." Avalanches. Neshra stretched her arms above her head, claws extending briefly. "How terrifying. On my world, we train by hunting creatures that hunt us back. Your dog would last approximately 3 minutes in our wilderness reserves." Toral scuttled over, his multiple limbs moving in perfect coordination. Since their first meeting, he'd observed Duke from a distance, taking notes on a digital pad. "I've been studying your companion's behavior patterns. His responses are consistent and predictable. This suggests extensive conditioning, but I detect no evidence of independent tactical thinking." "He doesn't need to think tactically," Ryan said, accepting a water container from a supply drone. That's my job. His job is to trust me and do what he's trained to do. Precisely my point. Toral's translator made his excitement sound flat, but his antennae vibrated rapidly. He is a tool that responds to commands. An effective tool, perhaps, but still merely an extension of your own capabilities. Most species have moved beyond such primitive partnerships. Duke sat patiently through the conversation, his tongue hanging out slightly as he panted. When a maintenance drone rolled past, making mechanical noises, his ears perked up briefly before he relaxed again, dismissing it as non-threatening. The real problem started during hand-to-hand combat training. Commander Halvax divided the cadets into sparring pairs, matching them by size and strength categories. Ryan found himself paired with a cadet from an amphibious species, someone close to his height, but with a lower center of gravity. They circled each other on the mat while other pairs fought around them. The amphibious cadet moved in suddenly, trying to grapple Ryan's legs. Ryan twisted away, using the momentum to attempt a throw, but his opponent's slick skin made gripping difficult. The match ended in a draw after 3 minutes. Duke had watched from the sidelines, lying down but alert. As Ryan walked back to get water, Gronak's voice boomed across the training hall. Everyone stop. The massive Urson stood in the center of his mat, his opponent unconscious at his feet. Medical drones were already rushing over. I have a question for the human. Your pet watches you fight. Does it even understand what's happening? Or is it simply waiting for you to feed it? Laughter rippled through the assembled cadets. Ryan felt heat rise in his face, but kept his expression neutral. He understands plenty. Then perhaps he should fight. Gronak stepped off his mat, walking slowly toward Duke. My people believe that a warrior's companion must also be a warrior. Your creature sits and watches. It is nothing while you struggle. What use is such a coward? Duke's posture hadn't changed. He remained in a down position, eyes tracking Gronak's approach, but showing no aggression. Ryan recognized the discipline in that calm response, the result of hundreds of hours of training. But to the alien cadets, it looked like fear. Commander Halvax's voice cut through the tension. Gronak, return to your position. This is not a zoo, and Cadet Foster's companion is not part of today's training exercise. Of course, Commander. Gronak turned away, but not before giving Ryan a look of pure contempt. I only wished to see if the creature had any spirit at all. Apparently not. After training, Briggs found Ryan in their quarters. Duke was drinking from his water bowl, and Ryan was reviewing tactical manuals on his datapad. You okay? Briggs sat on his bunk. That thing with Gronak was rough. I'm Eufina. Ryan didn't look up from his reading. It's just words. It's more than words now. There's a betting pool going around about how long you'll last before you send Duke back to Earth. Some cadets are taking bets on whether he'll get hurt during a training accident. Briggs paused. They think you're weak for keeping him here. Ryan finally looked up. Do you think I'm weak? No. But I don't understand it either, honestly. Why is having Duke here so important? Earth could have sent you alone. You're a good soldier. You don't need him to prove yourself. It's not about proving anything. Ryan reached down and Duke walked over, resting his head on Ryan's knee. Humans and dogs have worked together for thousands of years. We evolved alongside each other. Duke isn't just a tool or a pet. He's my partner. He reads my emotions, anticipates my needs, and I do the same for him. That kind of bond makes both of us better at what we do. Briggs was quiet for a moment. The other species don't have that. They either domesticated nothing or they bred servants and labor animals. The idea of an equal partnership with a non-sentient creature doesn't compute for them. Then maybe they're missing something important. The next day brought team tactical simulations. Cadets were divided into squads of 6 and given scenarios to complete in virtual reality environments. Ryan's squad included Briggs, Toral, Neshra, and 2 other aliens he didn't know well. When they gathered in the simulation prep room, Neshra spoke first. We need to establish roles. I'll take points since my species has superior sensory capabilities. Briggs and Ryan can handle rear security. What about the dog? One of the other aliens asked, a scaled reptilian with binocular vision. Does it participate in the simulation? No, Ryan said. Duke's not part of military training exercises. He stays outside. Good. Neshra said. No distractions. The simulation was a hostage rescue scenario. Their squad had to infiltrate a station, locate 3 hostages, and extract them without triggering alarms. Neshra's confidence was justified as she led them through the first section, her enhanced hearing detecting patrol patterns before they became visible. But when they reached the hostage location, the scenario changed. One hostage was injured and couldn't walk. The squad had to carry them while defending against enemy reinforcements. Ryan and Briggs took the injured hostage between them, moving as quickly as they could while the others provided covering fire. Toral's multiple limbs let him operate 2 weapons simultaneously while maintaining communication. They made it to the extraction point with 12 seconds remaining. Acceptable performance, Commander Halvac said when they exited the simulation pods. Squad efficiency rating of 72%. Neshra's leadership was effective, and the team adapted to changing circumstances. We could have scored higher, Neshra said, glancing at Ryan. If we weren't carrying unnecessary weight in the form of emotional support animals waiting outside. Duke wasn't part of the simulation, Ryan pointed out. Our score had nothing to do with him. Exactly. He contributes nothing. You performed adequately without him, which proves my point. You don't need him here. Toral's antennae twitched. Although, I must note that Ryan's performance in the simulation was statistically above average. His response time and decision-making were quite efficient. Perhaps the bond he describes with his companion does provide some psychological benefit that translates to improved performance. Or perhaps he's just a competent soldier who happens to have a pet, Neshra countered. She walked away without waiting for a response. That evening, an announcement appeared on every cadet's datapad. The annual Battle of Champions would take place in 4 weeks. It was a tradition that spanned centuries at the Academy, where species brought combat beasts from their homeworlds to compete in a tournament. The Hall of Champions displayed recordings of past winners, massive creatures with armor plating, venomous fangs, and natural weapons that made them living nightmares. Briggs read the announcement and laughed. Can you imagine Duke in something like that? He'd be like bringing a house cat to fight a tiger. Ryan looked at Duke, who was chewing on a durable toy in the corner. The dog's jaw strength could bend metal, and his intelligence had solved problems that had stumped human handlers. But compared to the creatures in those recordings, he looked hopelessly outmatched. Yeah, Ryan said quietly. I can't imagine it. But Gronak could, and he was already planning how to make that imagination a humiliating reality. The Battle of Champions occupied every conversation in the Academy for the next week. Cadets who had never shown interest in the tradition suddenly became experts, debating which species had produced the most dominant combat beasts throughout history. Display screens in the common areas played highlight recordings from previous years, showing creatures that seemed designed specifically to kill. Ryan watched one such recording while eating lunch. An armored creature that resembled a rhinoceros, covered in metallic plates, faced off against something that looked like a giant scorpion. The fight lasted 40 seconds. The scorpion's tail struck 3 times, each blow absorbed by the armor, before the rhinoceros thing charged and flipped its opponent completely over. The scorpion landed on its back and couldn't right itself. Victory by incapacitation. Impressive, yes. Toral sat down across from Ryan, his meal consisting of some kind of protein gel. That armored beast was from the Korvac system. They breed them specifically for these competitions. Genetic modifications, enhanced bone density, reinforced hide. The creature is essentially a biological tank. Seems cruel, Ryan said, pushing his food around his plate. Breeding something just to fight. Many species see it differently. They view it as honoring the creature by allowing it to express its nature in pure form. A predator that hunts, a defender that protects, a warrior that battles. Each beast fulfills its purpose. Toral paused. I confess I find the entire tradition somewhat barbaric, but I understand the cultural significance. Duke lay under the table at Ryan's feet, occasionally receiving small pieces of meat that Ryan passed down to him. Several nearby tables had fallen silent when Ryan sat down, cadets watching to see if the human would react to their whispers. Neshra approached with her meal tray, sitting down without asking permission. I've entered my shadow Fong in the competition. She's been with my family for 3 generations, bred from the finest hunting stock on my homeworld. Her venom can paralyze creatures twice her size, and her camouflage make her nearly invisible in low light. Sounds dangerous, Briggs said, joining them with his own tray. She is dangerous. That's the point. Neshra tore into her food with sharp teeth. The Battle of Champions isn't a pet show. It's a demonstration of species superiority, of tactical training, of the bond between handler and beast. My people take it very seriously. Have humans ever competed? Toril asked, his multiple eyes focusing on Ryan. No, Earth doesn't have combat beasts in the traditional sense. We have working animals, but they're not bred for fighting. Ryan scratched Duke's ears under the table. It's not really our thing. How convenient, Gronak's voice boomed from behind them. The massive Urson set his tray down with enough force to make the table shake. Humans avoid the competition because they know their soft pets would be slaughtered in seconds. Better to not compete than to reveal your weakness publicly. Ryan looked up at him. Or maybe we just don't see the point in making animals fight each other for entertainment. Entertainment. Gronak's laugh was harsh. This is about honor. About proving which species has mastered the art of creating the perfect warrior companion. My people have won the Battle of Champions 7 times in the last 20 years. Do you know why? Because we understand strength. We respect power. We don't coddle weak creatures and call them partners. Duke had gone still under the table, sensing the tension in Ryan's body. The dog's training kept him from reacting, but his awareness had shifted to high alert. What I brought to the Academy this year will dominate the competition, Gronak continued. A rift stalker from the northern territories of my homeworld. It weighs 400 kilograms and can tear through reinforced steel with its claws. It has never lost a fight. Not once. Sounds like you're very confident, Briggs said carefully. Confidence is for those who have doubt. I have certainty. Gronak leaned forward, his massive hands flat on the table. Which brings me to a proposal for the human. If Earth pets are so special, if this bond you speak of is so powerful, then prove it. Enter your little dog in the Battle of Champions. The cafeteria had gone completely silent. Every cadet within hearing distance had stopped eating to listen. Ryan felt dozens of eyes on him, waiting for his response. Duke's not a fighting dog. He's trained for search and rescue, not combat. How convenient to have an excuse ready. Gronak straightened up. Perhaps that is the human way. Bring animals to a military academy, claim they are partners and equals, but never actually test them against real opposition. Just keep them as emotional comfort while the actual warriors do the fighting. Ryan's jaw tightened. You don't know what you're talking about. Then prove me wrong. Enter the competition. Show us all that your bond with this creature means something more than weakness. Gronak's smile showed far too many teeth. Unless you're afraid of what we'll discover. Neshra had stopped eating, watching Ryan with genuine concern. Gronak, that's enough. The human clearly doesn't want to risk his companion. There's no shame in that. The dog isn't bred for this. Exactly, Gronak said. It isn't bred for anything useful. Just another mouth to feed, another weakness to protect. Humans bring pets to the stars and wonder why we don't respect them. He walked away, his footsteps heavy on the metal floor. Conversations slowly resumed around them, but Ryan could feel the stares continuing. Don't listen to him, Briggs said quietly. He's trying to get under your skin. Everyone knows Duke isn't a combat animal. That's twice now, Ryan said, his voice tight. Twice he's called Duke weak. Called me weak for having him here. Because Gronak's an idiot who only understands one kind of strength, Neshra said. She looked uncomfortable, a rare expression on her usually confident face. Look, I've been giving you a hard time too, and I'm not proud of that. But entering Duke in the Battle of Champions would be genuinely dangerous. Those beasts are killers. My Shadow Fong has taken down prey animals in seconds. She's not playing when she fights. Neither is Duke when lives are on the line, Ryan said. But even as he spoke, doubt crept into his voice. Duke had faced dangers before. Unstable terrain during rescues, aggressive wildlife while searching for lost hikers, even building collapses during disaster responses. But those weren't deliberate combat situations against creatures designed to fight. That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk watching Duke sleep on the mat nearby. The dog's sides rose and fell with deep, peaceful breaths. Occasionally his paws twitched, probably dreaming of running. "You awake?" Briggs whispered from the other bunk. "Yeah. You're not actually considering it, are you?" Entering Duke, Ryan was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. Part of me wants to prove Gronak wrong. To show all of them that Duke isn't weak, that our partnership means something. But what if I'm wrong? What if I'm letting my pride put Duke in danger? He trusts me completely. If I lead him into that arena, and he gets hurt because I wanted to prove a point, I'll never forgive myself." Briggs sat up, looking across the dark room. "Duke's saved 14 lives, you said. He's brave, smart, and loyal. But bravery doesn't mean invincibility. Those combat beasts in the recordings, they're not like anything Duke's ever faced." "I know. So what are you going to do?" Ryan didn't answer. Instead, he got up and knelt beside Duke. The dog woke immediately, tail wagging softly as he nuzzled Ryan's hand. Those dark eyes looked up at him with absolute trust and affection. Duke would follow him anywhere, do anything he asked, without question or hesitation. That was both the most beautiful and most terrifying thing about their bond. The next morning, Ryan requested a meeting with Commander Halvax. The reptilian officer listened without interrupting as Ryan explained the situation. "Gronak challenged you publicly," Halvax said when Ryan finished. "This is unfortunate, but not unexpected. The Ursan species values strength above all else. They view your bond with Duke as sentimentality that has no place in military culture." "Is he right?" Halvax's eyes narrowed slightly. "That is not for me to judge. Every species contributes to the coalition in their own way. Humans bring unique perspectives and abilities. Whether your companion animals are a strength or weakness remains to be seen." He paused. "However, I will say this. I have observed you and Duke for 3 weeks now. The discipline you both demonstrate is notable. The creature's training is exceptional. But training for rescue work is very different from training for combat. So you think I shouldn't enter? I think you should make your decision based on what is best for Duke, not based on what Gronak or anyone else thinks. If you enter and Duke is injured or killed, you'll have to live with that choice. If you decline and face continued mockery, you'll have to live with that instead. Choose the burden you can bear." Ryan stood to leave, then hesitated. "Commander, do you think strength only comes in one form?" Halvax considered the question. "I have seen warriors who could crush steel with their bare hands die because they lack the intelligence to avoid obvious traps. I have seen brilliant tacticians who froze in actual combat because they lacked emotional resilience. Strength has many faces, Cadet Foster. The question is whether the galaxy is ready to recognize them all." That afternoon, Ryan made his decision. The registration office was located in a side corridor near the main training facilities. Ryan stood outside for a full minute before entering, Duke sitting patiently beside him. Through the transparent door, he could see the registration officer, a multi-limbed alien filing data on holographic screens. "Last chance to back out," Ryan said quietly to Duke. The dog looked up at him, tail wagging, completely trusting whatever decision Ryan made. He pushed through the door. The registration officer looked up, 2 of his 6 eyes focusing on Ryan while the others continued working on the screens. "Can I help you? I want to register for the Battle of Champions." All 6 eyes focused on him now. "Species, human. Ah, yes. We have no human entries in our historical database. This is your first time participating. Excellent." The officer pulled up a new form. "Name of your combat beast?" "Duke. He's a German Shepherd, a breed of dog from Earth." The officer's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "A dog. I see. And this dog's combat qualifications. He's trained for search and rescue operations. He's worked in disaster zones, found people trapped in collapsed buildings, and tracked lost individuals across difficult terrain." The clicking grew louder. "Those are not combat qualifications. They're what he has." The officer entered the information, still making that clicking sound that Ryan was certain was laughter. "Very well. Registration fee is waived as this is your first competition. Your first match will be in 3 days. The bracket assignments will be posted tomorrow. He handed Ryan a data chip. These are the rules. Your beast must report to the holding area 1 hour before the match. You understand that injuries are common and fatalities, while discouraged, do occasionally occur. I understand. Then good luck, human. You will need it. Ryan left the office and immediately encountered crowd. Word had spread impossibly fast. At least 30 cadets were waiting in the corridor, and more were arriving every second. Gronak stood at the front, his massive arms crossed over his chest. So the human has courage after all, Gronak said loudly. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. I respect the decision, even as I pity the dog. Your pity isn't necessary, Ryan said, trying to push through the crowd. Neshra blocked his path, her expression serious. Ryan, I need to speak with you privately. I am busy. Make time. She didn't wait for agreement, simply walking toward an empty training room. Ryan followed reluctantly, Duke trotting between them. Once inside with the door closed, Neshra turned on him. What are you thinking? Did Gronak's words hurt your pride so badly that you're willing to get Duke killed? Duke won't die. You don't know that. My Shadow Fong has killed before. Not in competition, but during training accidents. She's a predator, Ryan. When she's in that arena, her instincts take over. I can give her commands, but if she sees prey, if she smells fear, she will attack to kill. Duke doesn't know how to feel fear like that. He's trained to stay calm in dangerous situations. Neshra's ears flattened against her head. Calm won't save him when a creature twice his size has fangs in his throat. These beasts, they're not like anything on Earth. They're bred and modified to be perfect killers. The galaxy's most dangerous species have spent generations creating the ultimate combat animals. Then maybe it's time they met something they didn't expect. Which is what? A rescue dog? Ryan, please. I've been harsh about Duke, but I don't want to see him hurt. There's no shame in withdrawing your entry. Yes, there is. Ryan sat on a training mat, and Duke immediately laid down beside him. If I withdraw now, it proves everything Gronak said. The humans are too soft, too sentimental, that our bonds with animals are weakness. Every human who comes to this academy after me will face the same mockery, the same doubt. So you'll sacrifice Duke to make a point? I'm not sacrificing anyone. I'm giving him a chance to show what he can do. Duke has saved 14 lives, Neshra. He's pulled children from avalanches, found people in burning buildings, tracked lost hikers through forests in the middle of the night. He's not some pampered pet. He's a working dog with more real-world experience than most of the cadets in this academy. Neshra was quiet for a moment. Even if that's true, this is different. This is deliberate combat. Duke's never had to fight another animal to the death. Neither have most of the beasts in the competition, probably. They train for it, but training isn't the same as real experience. Duke's faced real danger, made real decisions under pressure. That has to count for something. She stood up, walking to the door. I hope you're right. I genuinely do. But hope doesn't win fights. She paused in the doorway. For what it's worth, if Duke survives his first match, I'll tell you everything I know about how to prepare for the second. But only if he survives. The next 2 days were intense. Ryan didn't train Duke to be aggressive or to attack. Instead, they practiced what they already knew: precision, communication, and trust. They ran obstacle courses together, with Ryan giving commands that Duke followed instantly. They practiced scenarios where Duke had to make quick decisions, where he couldn't wait for Ryan's orders. Briggs helped set up training situations in empty corridors. He'd throw objects, make loud noises, try to distract Duke from his tasks. The dog's focus never wavered. When Ryan gave a command, Duke obeyed immediately. When situations required independent judgment, Duke made smart decisions based on his training. Toral observed from a distance, taking notes. On the second day, he approached during a break. I have been analyzing the combat recordings from previous Battle of Champions competitions, Toral said, without preamble. I've identified patterns that might be relevant to your situation. I'm listening. Most combat beasts rely heavily on physical advantages: size, armor, natural weapons, venom. Their training focuses on maximizing these attributes. However, their handlers have limited control once combat begins. The beasts operate largely on instinct and basic conditioning. And, and I observe that Duke's primary advantage is not physical. It is cognitive and relational. The bond between you allows for complex communication in real time. Duke doesn't simply follow commands. He anticipates your intentions and adapts his behavior accordingly. This suggests a possible tactical approach, which is Toral's antennae vibrated rapidly. Don't fight the way they expect. Every handler will command their beast to attack, to use strength against strength. But you could theoretically use Duke's agility and intelligence to avoid direct confrontation, to tire opponents, to exploit weaknesses that brute force cannot address. Ryan considered this. You're saying we should fight smart, not hard. Precisely. Though I should note that this is theoretical. I have no data on whether such an approach would actually succeed. The physical disadvantages Duke faces are substantial, but it's something. It is possibility rather than certainty. I thought you should have all available information before the competition begins. That night, the bracket assignments were posted. Duke's first opponent was a spine hound from the Kazarek system. The accompanying data listed the creature as massing 140 kilograms with a hide covered in poisonous quills and jaws strong enough to crush bone. It was rated as a mid-tier competitor. That's actually good news, Briggs said, reviewing the data. You could have drawn a top seed in the first round. The spine hound is dangerous, but not impossible. Everything's impossible if you think about it too much, Ryan said, but his hand was shaking slightly as he downloaded the opponent information to his datapad. The next day was the competition. The arena was packed with cadets, instructors, and visiting officials from various coalition worlds. The space was circular, about 30 meters in diameter, with an energy barrier separating the fighting area from the spectator sections. Medical drones hovered at stations around the perimeter. The first matches began at noon. Ryan watched from the holding area as an armored reptilian beast fought against a pack of smaller insectoid creatures. The reptile's armor deflected most attacks, and it crushed the insects one by one until their handler surrendered. Time. For minutes, that Neshra's Shadowfang fought next. Her opponent was a crystalline creature that moved in sharp, angular patterns. The Shadowfang used her camouflage ability to seemingly vanish, then struck from behind, her venom paralyzing the crystal beast in seconds. The crowd roared approval that Gronak's Riftstalker didn't fight in the early rounds. As a top seed, it would enter the competition later. But it was on display in a reinforced holding pen, and Ryan made the mistake of looking at it. The creature was massive, covered in thick fur with plates of what looked like natural bone armor across its shoulders and back. Its claws were the length of Ryan's forearm. When it noticed Ryan watching, it slammed against the pen's barrier hard enough to make the entire structure shudder. Impressive, yes. Gronak appeared beside him. That is what a real combat beast looks like, not a house pet with a wagging tail. Duke sat next to Ryan, completely calm despite the Riftstalker's display. His ears were forward, alert, but he showed no fear. Ryan took strength from that calm. We'll see, Ryan said quietly. An announcement echoed through the holding area. Cadet Ryan Foster and Duke, report to Arena Entrance 3. Your match begins in 10 minutes. The time had come. Ryan knelt beside Duke, holding the dog's face gently in both hands. Okay, buddy. I need you to trust me one more time. Can you do that? Duke's tail wagged. His tongue lolled out in what looked almost like a smile. Good boy, Ryan whispered. Let's show them what we can do. They walked toward the arena entrance together, and Ryan tried not to think about the fact that he might be leading his best friend to serious injury or worse. He tried to focus instead on all the times Duke had trusted him before, all the times that trust had saved lives. The arena entrance opened, flooding them with light and the roar of thousands of spectators. Duke walked beside Ryan without hesitation, his training and trust overriding whatever instincts might have told him to run. Across the arena, the spine hound entered through the opposite entrance, its handler struggling to control the creature's aggressive pulling. The hound's quills stood erect, glistening with whatever toxin they contained. Commander Halvax's voice came over the speakers. First match, preliminary bracket. Duke of Earth versus Spinehound of Kazrex. Handlers, take your positions. Ryan reached down one last time to touch Duke's head. Remember your training. Listen to my commands. Trust me. Duke looked up at him with those trusting eyes. The starting signal sounded. The Spinehound charged immediately, its massive paws thundering across the arena floor. Quills along its back stood rigid, and foam dripped from jaws designed to crush and tear. Its handlers shouted commands in a guttural language that the translators couldn't fully render. Duke didn't move until Ryan's hand signal came, a subtle gesture most spectators missed. Then he was in motion, not forward into the charge, but laterally, using his agility to slide away from the direct attack. The Spinehound tried to adjust its trajectory mid-charge, but its bulk worked against it. The creature stumbled, its claws scrabbling for purchase on the smooth arena floor. Circle left, Ryan called, his voice calm despite his racing heart. Duke responded instantly, moving in a controlled arc that kept him at the edge of the Spinehound's vision. The alien creature spun to track him, confused by prey that wasn't behaving like prey should. It charged again, and again Duke evaded, this time letting the hound's momentum carry it past him. The crowd's murmur grew louder. This wasn't how these fights usually went. Most handlers commanded their beasts to engage directly, to use their natural advantages in immediate confrontation. But Ryan was treating this like a search pattern, keeping Duke moving, keeping him at a distance, forcing the opponent to waste energy. The Spinehound's handler grew frustrated, shouting more commands. The creature responded by lowering its head and charging once more, but this time it tried to anticipate Duke's movement, swinging its body to cut off escape routes. Hold, Ryan commanded. Duke stopped immediately, his body tensing but not fleeing. The Spinehound committed to its attack angle, expecting Duke to run. When he didn't, the creature had to adjust at the last second, throwing its balance off completely. It stumbled past Duke, and in that moment of vulnerability, Ryan gave a new command. Strike left rear. Duke moved like he'd been shot from a spring, his jaws finding the Spinehound's left rear leg at the joint where quills didn't protect. It wasn't a tearing bite meant to rip flesh, but a precise grip targeting the tendon. The Spinehound howled and spun, trying to reach Duke with its quills, but Duke had already released and retreated. The larger creature tried to put weight on that leg and stumbled. The bite hadn't crippled it, but it had damaged something important. The Spinehound's movements became uneven, favoring its injured leg. Circle right. Maintain distance, Ryan called. For the next minute, Duke simply moved around the arena while the Spinehound tried desperately to close the distance. Each charge was slower than the last, each turn more labored. The creature's handler was screaming now, but panic wasn't strategy. Finally, the Spinehound planted its feet and refused to move, its sides heaving with exhaustion. Approach slow, Ryan commanded. Duke walked forward carefully, his posture alert but not aggressive. The Spinehound growled but didn't charge. It was spent, unable to continue fighting but unwilling to surrender. Duke stopped just outside its range and sat down, looking back at Ryan as if asking what came next. Commander Halvax's voice echoed across the arena. The Spinehound is unable to continue effective combat. Victory to Duke of Earth. The arena fell into stunned silence. Then the murmuring started, growing louder as cadets processed what they'd just witnessed. This wasn't how these fights were supposed to go. Ryan entered the arena and walked to Duke, kneeling beside his companion. Good boy. Perfect. You did exactly what I asked. Duke's tail wagged, and he licked Ryan's face, completely unbothered by the thousands of staring aliens or the Spinehound being led away by its embarrassed handler. In the holding area afterward, Briggs practically tackled Ryan with a hug. That was incredible. You didn't try to fight it directly at all. You just wore it down. Duke's not built for direct confrontation with something that size, Ryan said, checking Duke over for any injuries. The dog was unharmed, barely even winded. So we played to our strengths instead. Toral scuttled over, his antennae vibrating so fast they blurred. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Your tactical approach was entirely outside the expected parameters. The Spinehound handler kept waiting for Duke to engage in traditional combat, and when it didn't happen, he had no secondary strategy. Most combat beasts don't have secondary strategies, Neshra said, approaching from her own holding area. Her Shadow Fong had won her match as well. They're trained for one thing: overwhelming force. What you did was completely different. She paused. It was actually impressive. Though I should warn you, the next round won't be against a mid-tier opponent. You'll face real competition now. Over the next 2 days, Duke advanced through the bracket. His second opponent was faster than the Spinehound, a cat-like creature with reflexes that made it nearly impossible to predict. But Duke's training wasn't based on prediction. It was based on communication. Ryan's commands directed Duke through a complex pattern that looked random to observers, but was actually a carefully structured series of movements designed to create openings. When the cat creature overcommit to an attack, Duke was already moving to exploit the gap. The third match was harder. Duke faced an armored beetle the size of a small vehicle, its carapace reflecting light like polished metal. Nothing Duke did could penetrate that armor directly. For 5 minutes, it looked like a stalemate. The beetle was too slow to catch Duke, but Duke couldn't hurt it. Then Ryan noticed something. The beetle's joints, where the armor plates met, showed tiny gaps. Not enough for a normal attack, but maybe enough for precision. Target right front joint, rapid strikes, Ryan commanded. Duke became a blur, hitting the same spot over and over, not trying to bite through, but using impact force to damage what lay beneath the armor. After 30 impacts, something in that joint gave way. The beetle's leg collapsed, and it couldn't right itself. Victory through persistence. By the semifinals, the entire academy was talking about nothing else. Duke had defeated every opponent without taking a single injury, using tactics no one had seen in decades of Battle of Champions history. Betting pools that had given him 100-to-1 odds were now paying out to the few cadets who'd believed in him. The semifinal match, Duke against Neshra's Shadow Fong. The feline cadet found Ryan before the match. "I want you to know I'm not going to go easy on you," she said seriously. "The Shadow Fong is my family's pride. But I also want to say that what you've accomplished already is remarkable. You've changed how a lot of cadets think about Earth animals." "Thank you," Ryan said. But we're not done yet. The semifinal arena was even more packed than before. Special seating had been arranged for coalition officials who'd heard about the unusual competitor. Commander Halvax stood at the center, his expression unreadable. When the match began, the Shadow Fong used her primary advantage immediately, activating her camouflage. She seemed to vanish, becoming nothing more than a shimmer in the air that was almost impossible to track visually. But Duke didn't need to see her. Ryan had realized during preparation that Duke's senses were different from human or most alien senses. The dog's sense of smell was thousands of times more sensitive. His hearing picked up frequencies humans couldn't detect. Visual camouflage might fool eyes, but it couldn't fool Duke's other senses. "Track and call," Ryan commanded. Duke's head turned, following something invisible to the crowd. He began barking. Sharp, precise sounds that indicated direction and distance. Each bark was a piece of information, telling Ryan exactly where the Shadow Fong was moving. Neshra realized what was happening and tried to change tactics, having her Shadow Fong move faster, more erratically. But Duke tracked every movement, his barks updating Ryan constantly. The Shadow Fong couldn't get close without Duke knowing exactly where she was. Finally, exhausted from maintaining camouflage while moving at high speed, the Shadow Fang's shimmer failed for just a second. Duke was already moving toward that position, closing the distance before the camouflage could reactivate. When the Shadow Fong appeared, Duke was right there, cutting off her escape route. The Shadow Fong tried to use her venom, striking at Duke with fangs designed to paralyze. Duke twisted away with the same precision he'd shown in every previous match, avoiding the strike by centimeters. Then he was inside her guard, not biting but body-checking her off balance. The Shadow Fong rolled, tried to recover, but Duke stayed on her, using his weight and position to keep her from regaining her footing. "Yield," Neshra called out, her voice tight. "I yield the match." Duke backed away immediately on Ryan's command, and the Shadow Fong stood up slowly, her pride wounded more than her body. The crowd erupted in noise that was equal parts shock and excitement. Ryan entered the arena, and Neshra met him there. She didn't speak at first, just looked at Duke with new respect. "Your bond is real," she said finally. "I understand that now. He's not just following commands. He's working with you, thinking with you. That's not something we can breed into our creatures. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You're in the finals now. Against Gronax, Rift Stalker." She glanced toward the holding pins, where the massive beast was visible even from a distance. "That thing is never lost, Ryan. Never. It's killed opponents before when they didn't surrender fast enough. Please be careful." That night, Ryan couldn't sleep. He lay in his bunk thinking about the final match. The Rift Stalker outweighed Duke by more than 300 kilograms. Its armor could probably withstand anything Duke could do. Its claws could kill with a single strike, but Duke had made it this far. They'd proven something important. Maybe that was enough. Maybe they should withdraw now, before the risk became too great. Duke sensed Ryan's anxiety and came over to the bunk, resting his head on the mattress. Those trusting eyes looked up at him in the darkness. "What do you think, buddy?" Ryan whispered. "Should we finish this?" Duke's tail wagged softly. "Yeah," Ryan said quietly. "That's what I thought too." The final match was scheduled for the next afternoon. One more fight. One more chance to prove that strength came in many forms. Or one more chance for everything to go wrong. The arena was packed beyond capacity. Cadets stood in every available space, and the viewing screens around Station Horizon broadcast the match to everyone aboard. This had become more than just a competition. It had become a statement about what strength meant, about what bonds between species could achieve. Ryan stood in the handlers area, watching the Rift Stalker across the arena. The creature was even more massive than he'd thought, its shoulders higher than Ryan's head, its claws scraping gouges in the reinforced floor. Gronax stood beside it, one hand resting on the beast's armored hide, looking supremely confident. Duke sat calmly at Ryan's feet. Over the past weeks, nothing had shaken the dog's composure. Not the alien environment, not the hostile reactions, not the previous fights. He simply trusted Ryan and responded to whatever situation they faced together. "Last chance to withdraw." Commander Halvax's voice came through Ryan's communicator. "No one would blame you. Duke has already exceeded all expectations." "We're finishing this," Ryan said quietly. Briggs stood behind the handler's barrier, his face tight with worry. Neshra was beside him, along with Toril and a growing number of cadets who had started to see Duke as more than just a pet. They were invested now, understanding that this fight represented something bigger than a simple competition. The announcement echoed across the arena. Final match of the Battle of Champions. Duke of Earth versus Rift Stalker of the Ursan homeworld. This match will determine this cycle's champion. The crowd noise built to a roar, then fell silent as the starting signal prepared to sound. Ryan took a deep breath and gave Duke the only command that mattered right now. "Ready." Duke stood, his muscles tensing, his focus sharpening. Not aggressive, but alert and prepared for whatever came next. The signal sounded. Gronak released the Rift Stalker's restraints immediately, and the massive beast charged. The arena floor shook with each step, the creature's bulk making it seem unstoppable. Its roar echoed off the walls, a sound designed by evolution to freeze prey in terror. Duke didn't freeze. He moved laterally, using the same evasion tactics that had worked before, but the Rift Stalker was smarter than his previous opponents. It anticipated the movement, swinging its massive body to cut off escape angles. Duke had to reverse direction, his claws scrambling for grip as he barely avoided a strike that would have crushed him. "Circle wide, maximum distance," Ryan commanded, his voice steady despite his racing pulse. Duke opened the distance, and the Rift Stalker pursued. But this creature wasn't like the Spinehound. It didn't waste energy on blind charges. It moved with purpose, cutting angles, using the arena's circular shape to limit Duke's movement options. Gronak's commands were precise, working with the beast's natural intelligence. For 3 minutes, Duke did nothing but evade. The crowd grew restless. murmuring about whether the dog could do anything except run. Ryan ignored them, watching the Rift Stalker's patterns, looking for any weakness, any opening. The beast's armor was complete. Its joints were protected by overlapping plates. Its speed, despite its size, was remarkable. Everything about it was designed for combat dominance, but nothing was perfect. Ryan noticed that when the Rift Stalker turned quickly, it had to plant its rear legs firmly to manage the weight shift. Just for a moment, less than a second, it was committed to that position. Not long enough to matter in normal combat, but maybe long enough for Duke. Next turn, strike rear right joint, immediate retreat. Ryan called. Duke's ears flicked, acknowledging the command. He continued circling until the Rift Stalker tried to cut him off with a sharp turn. The beast planted its rear legs, and Duke was already moving, closing the distance in a burst of speed that caught even Gronak by surprise. Duke's jaws found the joint where the Rift Stalker's leg met its hip, not the armored exterior, but the small gap where the plates had to allow for movement. The bite lasted less than a second before Duke released and sprinted away, but it was enough. The Rift Stalker roared in pain and fury, spinning to pursue. Its movement was still strong, but there was a slight hesitation in that leg now. Not enough to cripple, but enough to notice that Gronak's confident expression had cracked slightly. He shouted new commands, and the Rift Stalker changed tactics. Instead of pursuing, it moved to the center of the arena and stopped, planting itself in a defensive position. It was daring Duke to come to it, to engage on its terms where its advantages would be overwhelming. Duke looked to Ryan for direction. The crowd had gone silent, waiting to see what the human would do. Ryan understood the trap. If Duke approached, the Rift Stalker could use its superior strength in close combat. But if Duke stayed away, they would eventually call the match for the Rift Stalker based on effective control of the arena. Either choice seemed to favor Gronak. Then Ryan remembered something Toril had said. Most combat beasts operated on instinct and basic conditioning. Their handlers had limited real-time communication with them. But Duke was different. Duke could understand complex commands, could adapt to changing situations, could think. "Duke, speak," Ryan commanded. Duke barked. Once, twice, 3 times. Sharp, loud barks that echoed across the arena. The Rift Stalker's ears flicked in annoyance, but it held position. "Keep speaking," circle left. Duke began barking continuously while moving in a wide circle around the Rift Stalker. The constant noise from changing directions started to irritate the beast. Its head turned to track Duke, and Gronak had to give commands to keep it focused on maintaining position. "Approach slow, keep speaking." Duke moved closer, still barking, the sound cutting through the air. The Rift Stalker's training told it to hold position, but its instincts were reacting to the constant provocation. The creature shifted its weight, muscles tensing. Rapid approach, faint left, break right. Duke charged forward, still barking, heading straight for the Rift Stalker's left side. The beast committed to that direction, turning to meet the attack with its full power. At the last instant, Duke cut right, using his agility to change direction in a way the Rift Stalker's mass wouldn't allow. The beast tried to compensate, but its injured rear leg couldn't support the sudden shift in momentum. It stumbled just slightly, just enough. Duke was past its guard, at its flank where the armor plates met in a vulnerable seam. Strike and hold. Duke's jaws clamped onto that seam. Not deep enough to cause serious injury, but positioned where the Rift Stalker couldn't reach him without completely rolling over. The beast roared and spun, trying to dislodge Duke, but the dog's grip was perfect. His training for holding on to rescue targets in avalanche zones, for maintaining grip on struggling victims, came into play now. The Rift Stalker reared up on its hind legs, trying to use its weight to throw Duke off. For a moment, it looked like the beast would succeed. Then its injured leg gave out just slightly, and the creature crashed back down on all fours with Duke still attached. Gronak was shouting commands, but the Rift Stalker had moved beyond responding to training. It was fighting on instinct now, trying to reach an opponent it couldn't shake and couldn't reach. The beast rolled, and Duke released immediately, sprinting clear before the massive body could crush him. The Rift Stalker came up from the roll, foam at its mouth, intelligence replaced by pure aggression. It charged without strategy, without thought, just raw power trying to overwhelm the small creature that had wounded its pride. Duke didn't run. He waited, and Ryan's hand signal was so subtle most spectators missed it. At the last possible moment, Duke moved, not to the side but between the Rift Stalker's front legs. The beast's own momentum carried it over Duke, and as it passed, Duke struck again at the same rear leg joint he'd targeted before. This time, the damage was enough. The Rift Stalker's leg buckled as it landed, and the creature crashed to the arena floor. It tried to stand, managed to get 3 legs under it, but the fourth wouldn't support weight anymore. Gronak stood frozen, unable to believe what was happening. His undefeated champion was down. Not killed, not bleeding out, but unable to continue fighting effectively. The Rift Stalker tried one more time to stand, to attack, to do anything. But the leg wouldn't hold. The beast's breath came in frustrated huffs, its intelligence returning enough to realize it had been defeated not by greater strength, but by strategy it had never encountered before. Duke approached slowly, not aggressive, just present. He moved to the Rift Stalker's head, and for a moment the two animals looked at each other. Then Duke did something that made the entire arena gasp. He touched his nose gently to the Rift Stalker's nose, the way dogs greet each other, showing respect without dominance. The Rift Stalker went still, something in that gesture reaching through its training and conditioning to whatever lay beneath. Commander Halvax's voice carried across the silent arena. The Rift Stalker is unable to continue. Victory to Duke of Earth, winner of this cycle's battle of champions. The arena exploded in noise. Cheers, shouts, multiple species making sounds of approval that the translators couldn't fully capture. Ryan entered the arena at a run, dropping to his knees beside Duke and pulling the dog into a hug. Good boy. Perfect. You were perfect. Duke's tail wagged, his tongue lolling out in that expression that looked like pure joy. To him, this was just another day working with his best friend. The fact that they just won a galactic competition meant nothing compared to Ryan's approval. Gronak approached slowly, helping his Rift Stalker to stand on 3 legs. The beast leaned against its handler, and for the first time, Ryan saw genuine affection pass between them. Gronak met Ryan's eyes. I was wrong, the Urson said simply. About Duke. About you. About what strength means. I thought power was the only thing that mattered. But your bond with him, the way you work together, that is also power. Perhaps a kind my people have forgotten. He offered his hand, and Ryan shook it. The gesture meant something in Urson culture, Briggs had told him once. An acknowledgement of equal warriors. The ceremony was a blur. Commander Halvax presented Ryan with the champion's mark, a holographic emblem that would follow him throughout his coalition service. Duke sat beside him, perfectly calm, while thousands of aliens cheered and took images. Neshra approached afterward, along with Toril and dozens of other cadets who had mocked Duke weeks ago. I owe you an apology, Neshra said formally. I judged based on appearance and assumption rather than reality. Your companion is a warrior in ways I didn't understand. The bond between you is not weakness. It is a kind of strength my people lost when we chose to dominate our beasts rather than partner with them. Toril's antennae vibrated rapidly. I have documented everything. The tactical applications alone are fascinating, but the broader implications for coalition military philosophy are profound. Other species are already requesting information about Earth's companion animal programs. Over the following days, everything changed. Alien cadets approached Ryan with questions instead of mockery. Several species began researching their own planet's histories, looking for animals they might have domesticated differently if they'd understood what partnership could mean instead of just service. The companion posting program expanded. More humans arrived at the academy with dogs, cats, and other working animals. Each partnership was unique, each bond adding something different to the coalition's understanding of strength. Gronak became an unlikely friend, often training alongside Ryan and Duke. His Rift Stalker and Duke developed a mutual respect. The massive beast gentle around the smaller dog in a way that surprised everyone who'd seen it fight point one evening. Ryan sat in his quarters with Duke's head in his lap, scratching behind the dog's ears while Briggs worked on assignments across the room. You changed things, Briggs said quietly. Not just here, but across the coalition. There are reports of species reconsidering how they interact with their planet's wildlife, looking for partnerships instead of just resources. Duke changed things, Ryan corrected. I just gave him the chance. Duke's tail thumped against the floor, happy simply to be with Ryan in this quiet moment. Outside their window, Station Horizon orbited through space, and somewhere on 1,000 different worlds, people were learning that strength wasn't just about size or armor or claws. Sometimes strength was about trust, about partnership, about a bond between species that made both stronger than either could be alone. Duke yawned, completely unconcerned with his celebrity status or the changes spreading across the galaxy because of what he'd accomplished. He was just happy to be with his person, doing what he'd always done, trusting Ryan completely and working together to face whatever challenges came their way. And really, Ryan thought, scratching that special spot behind Duke's ears that made the dog's leg twitch, that had always been the whole point.